What I would advise guys is to start early, don't wait, just start early because you have to learn and unlearn a lot of things on your entrepreneurship journey.
Yes.
Because sometimes because it is your idea, you feel that no one can execute better than me, so you don't want to let go.
I think that's the problem that a lot of entrepreneurs experience.
Exactly. I would urge the young people to start entrepreneurship early. So don't say when I get to 35 or when I get to 40 I'll start my company. Just start early.
Yeah.
Because it takes time to build. You cannot run away from the fact that it takes time. There's nothing like quick money.
Yeah.
If there's one problem that is a mainstay in this world, is housing. And whether you have a solution today or yesterday or tomorrow, the housing problem will still be a problem. So if you have solutions for it, then you have a ready market.
Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the After Hours in partnership with Tanqueray. Today we are obviously at one of the most amazing spaces we have in Nairobi. We are at the Art Cafe Gastro Bar. As you can see, Gastro Bar is an amazing place for you to be having both serious discussions but also have a good laugh with your friends. The drinks that we're having, obviously, buy the best Tanqueray-based cocktails. I am having a Gastro Collins, which is actually my favorite drink in the Art Cafe menu. How about you? What drink are you having?
I'm having a Negroni.
You're having a Negroni?
Yeah.
Yes. So Tanqueray is the best of the best. And they have been working with us the past couple of episodes. So if you haven't tuned into the previous ones, we've had amazing people come in and share their stories, but also very valuable insights that the guests have shared with us throughout this season. And today is no different. We are, of course, having such an amazing person joining us. We are having John Wachira, who I'll give the chance to introduce himself. Right after you remind you to subscribe from wherever you're listening from. Check out Tanqueray Africa's new website at mtsafrica.co that has been built in partnership with Revision. And finally, remember, as you're having these important conversations over these amazing cocktails, make sure you're doing so responsibly. Drink water, hydrate. We are going to be having a meal right after this conversation. So yes, all that cleared out of the way. John Wachira, thank you so much for joining us on
Thank
the
you
After
for having
Hours.
me.
Yes, I would love you to introduce yourself to our audience.
All right. So my name is John Wachira Wahome. I'm currently working in real estate, but I have a rich background in software, having worked, in the software space for about 15 years. I've been in different fields within the software space. I've worked across banks, hospitals, real estate, building software for business operations. And then I finally ended up in a real estate company that I founded with a friend of mine. So I've been working there now for about 5-6 years.
Which company?
The company is Finsco Africa. It's called Finsco Africa. So we are ideally a real estate firm. So we are into sale of plots, sale of houses, and we also do custom design and build for individual customers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Want to get to learn more about that, especially by you starting by saying that your background is in software and engineering. Software, is it engineering?
Yes, software
Okay.
engineering, yes.
Okay, yes. So you saying how it began with software engineering and then redirect into now full on real estate. I'm sure there's a lot of connectivity between those two industries. Before we get into the real estate part of the conversation, just take us slightly back into your background and how you got into tech in the first place.
All right. I think my story is quite an interesting one because I developed an interest with computers, I think when I was in high school. And then after high school, I would go to the cyber and I would read about HTML and JavaScript, just, some of the programming languages we have. And then later on, I ventured into a software engineering course and began my journey into tech. So I spent many hours, especially at night, just learning and coming up with software and testing things out until, that interest, developed into a serious interest. And I was able to, I've had quite an adventure in terms of software engineering. Having started working for free a couple of years, into my journey. I worked for free for some companies, just offering my tech skills, because guys somehow didn't hire back then.
Guys hiring now.
I don't know. At least from where I sit, I do hire sometimes.
You do hire.
Yeah,
Reach out to John Wachira.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but the tarmacking, I tarmac for about 2 years, and then I was trying to build my own software and sell. Okay, but that was a bit difficult, so I offered my skills to a company and started working for free. So I could train people, I could build websites, I could build software technologies, and then at some point I developed a software package and I got someone interested in it and he invested in it. However, that never saw the light of day.
Oh no.
So I went into other companies.
Still pro bono?
Not pro bono. This time I was hired by companies. I think now I had enough experience.
You had enough experience
as you would have it. Yeah, so I worked in the first company I worked in. They were doing software to do with enterprise resource planning. Mm-hmm. So I worked in manufacturing companies, most of them in industrial area, just automating their processes, where I got to learn a lot of things, even how manufacturers operate. After that, we went into the banking space, still doing enterprise resource planning. So we built software for banks. Build software for ATM switches. When you're withdrawing money through the ATM, there's a software running inside the ATM, so we build those. Then from there, I went into my own company. So I founded my own company as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So after founding my own company...
There's nothing quotation about that.
Okay, yeah. Delete that.
Yes.
So I went into entrepreneurship. I founded my first company. I had built a software for school management. All right, and I was trying to sell the software to schools, so I could tarmac. I had no car. I would tarmac. I remember at one point I printed. So that time we used to have the CDs.
Yes.
So I had printed my logo on 250 CDs. Then I had loaded my software in those CDs.
Wow.
And then I did forwarding letters, 250 of them.
You remember?
Yeah, and I used to live in Kahawa West at that time. So at Kahawa West, there's a post office, called Committee Post Office. Mm-hmm. So I borrowed some money from my dad, and then I prepared 250 parcels, and I had this big directory for schools, and I sent out all these letters to the schools. So I sent them out with CDs included and a free trial for 1 term for the software, and I sent this out to majorly in Kiambu County. Okay, those days we didn't have counties, so I sent them to parts of Kiambu, parts of Ukambani, parts of Western. I waited for emails, for calls, but nothing came back.
Wow.
So from there I started tarmacking, door to door. I would just look up where the schools are, and then I would just go there by matatu. I would find the school. So luckily, I found a couple of schools on Garissa Road, on your way to Ukambani. And I sold some software there. And then through that, I got a few other referrals. And I remember selling about 30 to 30 schools back then. And I made kidogo money then. Then an opportunity came up.
Before we even get to the opportunity, John, I think there's a lot that you've mentioned is just you summarizing your story, but there's a lot of lessons that I think someone can pick up from what you've said, because you started by saying that you did free work for about 2 years while you were trying to find your footing to eventually lead you to your first opportunity, which says a lot about, there's a lot of fast money, quote unquote, culture that is I guess when you're young, that is a presumption that you have, you're going to be able to make it, let me look for quick deals. But I see it a lot with people in my generation, because I fall into the Gen Z side, trying to see how they can make money fast within a short time frame and not want to do the groundwork. And so I think it was a lesson on resilience, because also just how casually you've mentioned that, yeah, when you now ventured into entrepreneurship, you then decided to do 200, you delivered 200 CDs to reach out to these people to try and validate your business and also get people. That is not something that people easily can do or able to get themselves like, you know what, let's do this. I'm going to call, email, I'm going to reach out to people, and also enduring the rejections and saying, okay, you know what, I've been rejected from this, but let me go physically to these schools.
Yes.
I think that's a lot of good things that you were able, and emotions that you were able to tackle while you were going through that. Could you just tell us a bit more about now how you were able to actually, the mindset that you had during that time? What are some of the key things that you would say to someone who is maybe starting their own journey and trying to see how to move to the next step?
I think that's right. I think there are a lot of learnings that you get, along the way, things that you could never get in a school. Mm-hmm. And I think I have learned a lot since I started, say, my entrepreneurship journey. And what I would advise guys is to start early. Don't wait. Just start early, because you have to learn and unlearn a lot of things on your entrepreneurship journey. And I think from when I started, looking back, there's one thing that I understand clearly, looking back, and that is you cannot be a thinker and a doer at the same time. So most of the time you could be a very good thinker, or you could be a very good doer. So if you are both, then you're blessed. So most of the time, even if you look at all the millionaires and billionaires we have in this world, the legitimate ones, they always have someone they work with. They have like that, what you could call a wingman for that sex. And either they are a thinker and they have someone to do, or they are a doer and they have someone to think. So most of the time, for instance, if you're a good chef, most probably you're not a good marketer. So you will need someone to come and tell people about your good food. Mm-hmm. So that is sort of the biggest lesson that I learned from my early years, because I tried to do everything. And I remember I had an email on my domain. I had an email for the CEO, which is me. Mm-hmm. I had an email for finance@something.com, which was also me.
Also you.
I had HR@something, which was also me, because I didn't have enough money to hire, and I was also not wise enough to look for friends who are in those spaces who we can partner with.
Would you say that it was also a bit of ego in play, that nobody can do it the way exactly how you think you can do it?
Correct.
Yes.
Because sometimes, because it is your idea, you feel that no one can execute better than me, so you don't want to let go.
I think that's the problem that a lot of entrepreneurs experience.
Exactly. Then another problem is you find that when you're a bit young, then most of the friends you have are either friends from primary school, from high school, friends from campus. So ideally, these are not people you would work with.
Yes.
So you do not have networks of people you've met professionally who can actually give you sound advice without feeling jealous. Okay? But if you're working with your friend, the same friend you drink with, same friend you have struggled with, same friend who knows your ups and downs, then you're in the office working together. Most of the time that doesn't work. So I think building a team very early on is very important, and knowing the people that you need for your idea to move forward, and also being open-minded in terms of getting the advice, being open-minded in terms of sharing the company. Because sometimes you don't want to start a company and then you bring somebody in who is an expert in marketing, and then you want to give them shares. So the ego comes in and you say, let me do it myself.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think there's a lot of learnings, that we get when we go into business, especially when you're very young and you're very green and you've not struggled, because you'll make your kidogo money initially, then you'll move out, you'll start paying bills, and then you realize you're paying bills and also trying to grow a business, and then it becomes too difficult, and then you have to look for a job so that the job can sustain you, because you don't want to go back home because your friends will laugh at you. You see those kinds of, so there's so many things that you battle when you're young, And I would urge the young people to start entrepreneurship early. So don't say when I get to 35 or when I get to 40, I'll start my company. Just start early.
Yeah.
Because it takes time to build. You cannot run away from the
build.
fact that it takes time. There's nothing like quick money.
Yeah. There's nothing like
Nothing
quick,
like
legit
quick money.
money.
Yeah.
Actually, I was hoping that you were also going to provide a solution when you were saying, okay, yeah, you start your business and then now you're looking to build your team and then now you need to pay your bills and then now you're scared to go back home. What as advice to me at least, because that is, I feel like I'm also in that space. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I started my Tanqueray Africa and now we're doing media and marketing for tech businesses. But just before we move to the next conversation, like, how do you then put the pieces together, especially when it comes to funding?
When it comes to funding, I think from a funding perspective, tech businesses have an upper hand because of one thing. Because anyone giving you money, as whether a VC or an angel investor, most of the time they'll give you money because of the scalability of your business. So you find that most businesses that are tech-based are easy to scale.
Predicting.
Yeah, you can predict and you can scale. And any tech business is founded to solve a problem. And if you're solving a problem that is practical, then it means that it's easy for you to replicate what you're doing here in Uganda, in Tanzania, and elsewhere.
Yes.
So when, based on the key indicators from an investor perspective, they will look at the scalability of your business. And if your business is scalable enough, then they're happy to invest, all right? So what I would advise is, if you're starting a business, then you have to have a clear roadmap of to where you're starting, say the minimum viable product, to when you break even, to when you become profitable. So decisions also do not have to be emotional. Decisions have to follow the same trajectory as your business, okay? Because you find guys who start businesses, they make their first million and the first thing they do is buy a car or they move to an upmarket apartment.
Yes.
But they don't know that what that does is that you and your business are joined at the hip. Until your business grows to a level where it can sustain itself without you being around, then you can take some of those risks. But if you still have to wake up and go to your business for you to earn some money, then you better make better decisions, even in your personal life.
Thank you so much. I really like that. Going back now into your career, tell us about now how you got solid into the real estate space.
Now, my story in real estate is an interesting one because I met a friend of mine a couple of years ago, so this is 2015, and we had sort of the same idea. We were actually having drinks somewhere.
I'm telling you, the best conversations are happening.
Cheers to drinks.
With a drink.
We were having drinks somewhere and we started talking, and the issue of real estate came into play, and we discussed and found that Kenya had a problem in terms of having a centralized way of people accessing real estate data and people accessing, a house for sale, land for sale and things like those, and also partnering with the government to see how do you get approvals and all those kinds of things. So we came up with a concept that was called the Property Center in 2015.
Wow.
And we even went on to register the Property Center as a limited company. But that never saw the light of day. It was an idea, but it was shelved for whatever reasons. Then from there, I had an interest in real estate. So I started interesting myself with other similar ideas across the globe. And I saw so many other companies in the US, in the UK, in other places in the world that were doing something similar to what we were thinking of doing. So what I did is I narrowed down to property management. And in 2017, as a software engineer, I started building a property management software to help landlords manage their properties better. Back in 2013, I had built an M-Pesa integration for a landlord in Eastlands to collect rent using a pay bill number. Yes. So that time we didn't have APIs for M-Pesa. So I had come up with a way of using a modem. You remember modems?
Yes.
I came up with a way of using a modem and plugging in a SIM card that receives the messages from M-Pesa. Then I plug this in a server on Mombasa Road, and then once you send money to that pay bill, it receives the message, then credits then saves that transaction in a database. So the guy who is in the office in Eastlands is able to read the messages from the guys who have paid, and is able to issue you receipts. So I had done that back in 2012, 2013, and then I had shelved it because it was working for that guy. I had no other customers. It was difficult to market. People still didn't understand how to utilize technology in their businesses. So the conversations were pretty difficult. So I just went back into some other employment and life continued.
Yes.
So what I did is I revived what I had thought about after 2015, and 2016 and 2017, I built a software. So in 2018, it was ready, and I got a few agencies to test out the software. So we tested the software 2018, tested the software 2019, and guys had started using the software, and then COVID came. So in 2019, me and my friend had linked up again, and we had gotten a project in real estate where we were taking a big chunk of land and subdividing and then improving it and selling. So we had gotten that deal. So it was ongoing from late 2018 all the way to 2020. So during this time, I was building the other software, and I was testing out with customers, but I was still employed.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, but you were still employed.
Yeah, because I have to survive.
Did you have time for life?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't have time for life. So while we were at home, I had enough time to do research and to develop the software a bit more. All right. So in 2021, we officially launched our first project under Finsco Africa. And we started selling, and we still had COVID. We were selling with masks, and we had a huge interest from Kenyans, both locally and in diaspora, who wanted to buy property. So once we sold the first project, we went into the second and the third, and up to where we are now in our 7th project. And what happened is we realized somewhere down the line that the gap was not the plot. The gap was actually the house. So guys were buying a plot to build a house in future. So for that reason, we again founded a company called Home Direct. So Home Direct is a company, is a subsidiary of Finsco Africa that does construction.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Now, inside construction, that's a totally different world. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to explore how we can use software to make life easy when you're building your house. Okay? In fact, in the next couple of weeks, we will be launching some app that helps you estimate how much your dream house would cost.
Wow. And
what you're doing is we are integrating with AI so that you chat the AI, tell it what you feel, what you want. You can even upload a photo of some bedroom or some sitting room or some kitchen, some floor plans or whatever it is, and then it will give you an estimate of how much it would cost to build that kind of house that is in your mind, and also give you access to mortgages that can support you build that house. Then Home Direct is there to make sure that we deliver that house.
Wow. You've said quite a bit of things there, talking about Finsco, and then now you guys coming up with a Home Direct.
Yes.
I'm liking to read between the lines, obviously, in our conversations. The first in-between liner that I'm noticing is that this is an idea you have been executing from 2015.
Yes.
And what's interesting to me is that I've had people of the opinion of not falling too in love with your product. Quote unquote, Evans Munene from Admin Access is someone who's said that quote before. But just pushing for that idea of if something is not working, what's the window of time for you to iterate or for you to let go of the idea? But for you, somehow it seems that you knew that this one was something that needs to stand, and you stuck with it. And I want to know why that was the case. And on top of the question of why, what are some of the problems that you've talked about them lightly, but the problems you were trying to solve with both Finsco and Home Direct, and why what your solution was. The solution you came up with was a good solution for the problems that you identified.
If there's one problem that is a mainstay in this world, is housing. Housing has been a problem ever since, say, the first
BC
industrial
even.
revolution. So guys have always wanted houses. And whether you have a solution today or yesterday or tomorrow, the housing problem will still be a problem. So if you have solutions for it, then you have a ready market. If you could go around this restaurant, for instance, I assure you more than 50% of these guys want a house. And those who have a house already, they want a second house somewhere else. If you have a house in Kiambu, you want a house in Malindi or Naivasha to take your family to holidays. So everyone needs a house. So that's a mainstay problem. So what we've done is, or if I look at my software engineering life, from when the concept of real estate came into my mind and I started developing, bits and bits, and trying to think around what solutions can we offer. I think the problem has still been prevalent, and up to date, it is still a huge problem. You've seen governments in Africa trying to put affordable housing as part of their manifestos and part of their charters in the constitution, so that they make sure that people actually have affordable and accessible homes. And it is based on that fact that I personally have stayed in the space, because I know the opportunities that are there, and with every solution comes another problem that needs to be solved. All right. So when you look at technology in real estate, it is in two fronts. Front number one is in building software that helps people access homes, in building software that allows people to get, looking at their finances and affordability, not only from a banking perspective, but also from a lifestyle perspective. For example, if you go across any estate within Nairobi, majority of the people are renting houses, okay? And these people have been honoring their rents every single month for the many years they've been tenants. So if you disqualify that person from getting a mortgage, then you're not being right with yourself. Because if I can pay for my rent year in, year out for 15 years, if someone told me to pay for my house 15 years ago, probably today I would be living in my own home. I would have already paid for that mortgage. Because Kenyans are known to not fear monthly payments. That's why everyone is buying a car in Mombasa, because they'll give you 36 months to pay for that car, and you will not mind, because the car will help you increase your movement and increase your income. So Kenyans are not afraid to make the monthly payment. That's why all these microfinance institutions are coming up, charging 4%, 3% per month. But Kenyans are still taking the money and doing business and buying assets. Okay, so Kenyans are not afraid to pay. But if you look at Kenyans from our traditional banking sector, the way the traditional banks look at you as a borrower, then most Kenyans don't qualify. That's why we have, I think, 30,000 mortgages across all banks, with a population of almost 60 million.
That's a very big disparity.
Yeah, it's too low. We've performed dismally. But if we could look at other alternative ways of appraising people for mortgages, then probably we could have a bit more people who can access homes.
Yes.
So that means at the end of the day, if you access a mortgage to buy a home or to build a home, there has to be someone on the other end ready to build that house. Because those houses do not exist. So the house that people want today, those houses don't exist. Mm-hmm. So there has to be someone who bridges that gap. Mm-hmm. And what we've seen in the market is that no one does a 360. So the banks on one side are giving you the money, but they don't build the house.
Yes.
So on this other side, there's someone who builds the house, but he doesn't give you money.
Yes.
So you have two sectors that are operating very different, but they are solving the same problem. So what if these two were fused by software so that they help you access both financing and a house under the same platform? Mm-hmm. So that is the reason why we exist.
I really like how you've summarized that and put into perspective the necessity of your product and why it's important to put everything together.
Yeah.
I think home ownership, I wouldn't just say in Kenya, I would say in Africa and globally seems to be ever a rising crisis, because I think in the era of, so to say, I think 20 years ago it was way easier to get a house, especially here, I think. But right now, in the space that we're in, we need to start asking ourselves questions on how to change the system, because as you've said, government institutions are trying to have a housing programs. I'm sure not just in Kenya, although that's what we're familiar with, everywhere across Africa. We are seeing a lot of people now leaning towards renting and thinking of home ownership as something that is a distant mirage, as something that is very difficult and not feasible for you to do. But that there's also an element of acceptance that we need to not have of that being the state of affairs, because at the end of the day, this is our world. Everybody wants to live a comfortable life.
Yeah.
And as everyone known from the time they were in preschool, that a basic necessity is housing.
Housing, yeah, correct.
Exactly. And so we need to raise a generation of people and people to be able to have accessible options for them to be able to actually get to the point of home ownership, and not just home ownership, but doing it in a way that the systems are convenient for you to be able to do that. Because a lot of times, again, in different situations, in different contexts, you would find that I am already liking that about the solution that you guys are providing, and not only with Finsco but Home Direct. You've also mentioned that you are launching something soon. Could you tell us a bit more about what that is? Home Direct is yet to launch. And what's going on there? What are the next steps, and how can someone be able to interact with Home Direct or Finsco, and what your offerings are?
Yeah, so ideally what we're trying to do, or what we are doing, is we are looking at the different touch points before someone owns a home. And what we're doing is we are developing solutions around those touch points to just make sure that it is easier for you to walk the journey of home ownership with our tools than without our tools. So what I mean to say is, if today you wanted to own a home, then you need to talk to different companies, or you need to talk to different persons.
Yes.
Number one, you need to get a location. After you get a location, you need to, for example, you say, I want to live in Sigona area, for instance, and then you have to look at the companies that are selling land in Sigona or houses in Sigona. Then once you get, then you have to go to the bank if you don't have all the money. Then from there, you have to do your due diligence. So there's so many things that happen before you own a home. So what you're trying to do is to simplify that process. Okay? So I may not give all the details now, but once we do a launch, of course, people will know about what we are doing. And ideally what you're doing is to just make sure that it is easier for you to own a home with what we are coming up with, because it will simplify
all the processes involved.
Because what people lack is information. If today you told someone this house is 200 square meters, then most of the time 90% of people can't figure out what that means. Okay, so if for instance you tell someone you'll get 10 million loan payable in 25 years. So most people don't know what that means. They don't know. So what happens if I don't pay? If I pay for 5 years, then I don't pay. So what happens in between?
Sure.
Does the money I've paid go down the drain? Or can I withdraw that money and use it somewhere else? Or can I sell that house and then the bank gets their share, I get my share? So what happens? So I think there's a lot of, intertwined or between having a software and also giving people education about owning a home. So we are in that crossroads. And what we are coming up is a platform that also helps existing developers, existing real estate people to join that platform and offer those solutions. So that is ideally, what we are coming up with.
Yes, I'm wishing you nothing but the best on this journey, because this
Thank you.
Sounding like a solution that is practical and will affect so many people. Yeah. We were just talking about this before we got onto the microphone, about just how fragmented things are, like you telling me how you need 12 licenses for you to be able to even start the construction, but also saying that it's important to have conversations like this and not accept the state of okay, this is just how things are. Because if we look back at how each citizen used to work, for those who don't know, a citizen is what we use to do our governmental services. It's something that didn't exist even 10 years ago, so to say. That is even a stretch. But now, you're able to get your driver's license within seconds, renew things, you're able to, it has its things, but the fact that we're able to digitize the processes has definitely streamlined processes more, and we need more people to do that when it comes to real estate as well. Yeah. So really happy to hear about what you guys are doing. And finally, maybe you can tell our audience where they can get to find you or connect with you, and if not whom direct, then Finsco.
Thank you very much. So for you to get us, we are located in Ruiru. Company is called Finsco Africa. We are located at Vision Industrial Park along the highway. This is opposite Spa Mall, right after the bypass. So you can also find us at Finsco Africa, finscoafrica.com. Send us an email at info@finscoafrica.com, and we'll be happy to assist.
Thank you so much. And while you check out Finsco, make sure that when you're at Gastro Bar, you are ordering Tanqueray-based cocktails. I may be biased, but those are the best cocktails that I personally have in Nairobi. And as he's also said, we have a testimony of how having drinks after hours can really give you epiphanies. So
ideas happen.
Ideas happen. Great things happen. And I think that's also why we even wanted sidetrack. One reason why we did this series is because there's conversations you have in the office and you meet them, but I think when you actually want to get to know a person, because you're not just working with a zombie or just people are not just this is my boss and this is who they are in person. If you actually get to understand people on on other conversations outside of work, I think that is when you can find the best conversations.
True.
Exactly. True. Yes. So, John, I have a gift for you.
Oh, really?
Or rather, the My Tech Story Africa and Tanqueray team have a gift for you.
All right, nice.
To just the amazing conversation and the amazing drink that you're having.
So my weekend is made, eh?
Yes. It better be.
My weekend is made.
I have the Tanqueray bottle, a candle. The best tonics I've tried myself, if you ask me. We have a cocktail shaker. You can make your own Negronis at home, and some botanicals to help spice up your drinks as well.
All right.
So enjoy.
Thank you very much. And thanks to Team Tanqueray.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Alice Kanjejo, your lovely host. I didn't tell you that in the intro. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye.